Ellen Greenberg, a 27-year-old woman from Philadelphia, had dreams of becoming a teacher. Her life was filled with joy, especially with her fiancé, Sam Goldberg. They were eagerly planning their wedding in August 2011.
She was engaged to be married, so we were planning a wedding.
However, their dreams were shattered on January 26, 2011, when Sam placed a fateful 911 call from their apartment.
My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere. Please come, help, now.
Willing to do CPR with me over the phone so they can...
I have to, right?
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off.
Oh, my God. Allie, please. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God. She stabbed herself.
She stabbed herself, he said. How would he know that? That's fascinating.
What's truly shocking is that Ellen had a total of 20 stab wounds on her body. Out of these, 10 were on the back of her neck, 1 on her head, 1 on her abdomen, and 8 on her chest. It's extremely unlikely that a person could have inflicted these wounds on themselves, especially those on the back of the neck.
I measured the arm length and the knife, and you can't get it back.
In this neuropathologist's best determination, Ellen wasn't alive when she was stabbed.
Initially, the reports claimed that Ellen had taken her own life, but this statement was also changed multiple times in the reports about Ellen's case. The big question is, could Ellen have given herself so many stab wounds? Ellen's parents firmly believed that her death was a homicide, not what the police initially said.
Corroborates what we've always thought. This was not a suicide. This was a vicious homicide.
This case became incredibly famous, drawing the attention of numerous pathologists and doctors who closely examined the mysterious death of Ellen. What follows will leave you thinking about everything again.
She loved life, she loved people, and bringing people together.
Did she truly have the strength to inflict such harm on herself? To find answers to these questions, let's dive into the details of this perplexing case. It all started on a stormy evening in Philadelphia back on January 26, 2011, when Ellen and Sam decided to head home early to escape the nasty weather. Sam, feeling energetic, headed down to the gym of their building, leaving Ellen to whip up a fruit salad in their cozy apartment. Little did they know, this ordinary evening was about to take a peculiar turn. After a mere 45 minutes, Sam returned back, only to discover the door was stubbornly locked from the inside. Puzzled, he began knocking, calling, and even texting Ellen, but an eerie silence was all that greeted his efforts. With no other choice left, Sam made a desperate decision and he broke down the locked door and entered their apartment. What he encountered was a chilling nightmare. There, in a horrifying scene, lay Ellen's lifeless body, surrounded by a gruesome pool of blood and her body bearing extensive wounds. The truly baffling part was there were no signs of a struggle or forced entry, and nobody had heard a thing. No screams, no disturbances. The woman who'd been happily preparing her salad just moments ago was now tragically lifeless. You might be wondering, what on earth transpired in those mysterious 45 minutes? Well, to uncover the full story, we need to turn back the clock to June 23, 1983, the day when Ellen Rae Greenberg, also known as Ellie, came into this world in the heart of New York City. Ellen was the cherished only child of Joshua, a periodontist, and Sandra, a dental hygienist. From a young age, she displayed a delightful mix of girlish charm and athletic prowess. She embraced all the typical girly activities, but also had a spirited athletic side. Ellen's heart overflowed with kindness and nurturing qualities, which naturally led her to a career in teaching. Those who knew her often marveled at her boundless energy and the way she tackled every task with an infectious smile. Growing up, she shared a deep and loving bond with her parents, Joshua and Sandra. As the sole focus of their attention, she enjoyed a wonderfully close and cherished relationship with them. At the age of 27, Ellen had found her calling as a teacher. She embarked on her educational journey, becoming a dedicated first-grade teacher at Juniata Park Academy in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But she didn't stop there. Ellen was a rising star in the education world. She proudly stood as one of the founding teachers at the school and was even a trusted member of the panel responsible for selecting new staff members. It was clear that Ellen possessed a remarkable go-getter spirit, a sense of maturity, and responsibility that had been with her since her early years. Over the past 4 years, Ellen had wholeheartedly embraced her role as a teacher, and her young students absolutely adored her. Notably, Michelle Stallone, a guidance counselor hired by the school, had the privilege of spending a year teaching alongside Ellen in the same classroom. Ellen's passion for teaching left an indelible mark on all who crossed her path. Michelle said, "Those little kids loved her. The day started and ended with hugs when they left. If she was absent, they didn't perform well. They just weren't happy without her." It was during this time that she crossed paths with Samuel Goldberg, a producer at NBC, who brought a touch of the glamorous TV industry into her life. Over nearly 3 years, their relationship blossomed, and Sam's charisma and successful career drew Ellen closer to him. Their love story blossomed in a decision to get engaged, a moment of pure excitement, especially for Ellen, who was over the moon with happiness. It felt like a dream come true, a journey to marry the man of her dreams, and they were both thrilled about the road ahead. Now, during this series of events, the security guard couldn't help but notice something peculiar. Sam was wearing Timberland-style boots, the kind typically not worn for going to the gym. Sam's actions took a chilling turn when he returned to the apartment and broke down the door. Inside, he confronted the devastating shock of his life. Ellen's lifeless body lay in a gruesome pool of blood on the kitchen floor. As if this horrifying sight weren't enough, Ellen also bore extensive wounds all over her body. Overwhelmed by confusion and shock, at around 6:30 p.m., Sam made the crucial decision to dial 911 for help. Now, let's listen to this 911 call carefully, as it holds some potential answers to some of the most baffling questions surrounding Ellen's tragic death, which remained unanswered.
Help, I need a fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come, help, now.
4601
Flat Rock Road.
Is this a house or apartment?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Apartment.
It's an apartment.
What apartment number?
603.
Apartment 603.
603, please hurry, please.
Where is she bleeding from?
I don't know, I can't tell. She's...
No, sir, you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. Ellie!
You don't know where she's bleeding from? Can't tell where
Ellie!
the blood's coming from?
I think her head. I think she hit her head, But it's everywhere.
Okay, sir.
It's everywhere.
You think she might have fallen? Do you know what happened?
She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple.
Okay, hold on for rescue for her. Stay on the phone.
In the midst of that critical 911 call, Sam described that there was blood everywhere. However, he also mentioned that Ellen had merely hit her head. What's noteworthy here is that Sam was close enough to notice any discoloration on her face, such as turning purple. This detail's vital because if there's anything else on her body, or a potential murder weapon, he would likely have seen it clearly. It's an essential detail to remember as we delve further into the unfolding call.
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. She's not responding.
It's indeed a heartbreaking situation to walk into your home and discover the person you love lifeless. Your natural instinct is to do everything in your power to try and save them, not to think about providing an alibi. It's puzzling why, at that moment, Sam seemed more concerned about offering an alibi to the police rather than urgently requesting help for his unresponsive fiancée lying on the floor. Perhaps he was emotionally overwhelmed or detached from the severity of the situation, as it's unusual for someone to prioritize their alibi over seeking immediate assistance for a loved one in distress.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down, and I need you to look at her chest. It's really.
I really don't think she is.
Listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back?
She's on her back. Do I bring her?
Look at her chest and tell me if it's going up and down, up and down.
I don't see her moving.
Okay, do you know how to do CPR?
I don't.
Okay, I can tell you what to do, okay, until they get there. I want you to keep her flat on her...
God.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, okay.
Are you willing to do CPR with me over the phone till they get here?
I have to, right?
Okay.
Sam's behavior during that 911 call is indeed puzzling. He questioned whether he had to perform CPR, which is a bit unusual considering it's often the first instinct when trying to save someone. The 911 operator repeatedly urged Sam to administer CPR, emphasizing the importance of checking Ellen's chest. However, it seemed like Sam might have been hesitant or unprepared to take action. In a typical situation, seeing a loved one covered in blood on the floor would prompt an immediate response, including turning them over and trying everything to save their life. But in this case, Ellen still remained on her back, and Sam appeared confused or perhaps even fearful about turning her over and looking at her chest.
So get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off.
Oh, shit.
Okay? You need to kneel down by her side.
Oh, my God. Allie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you
Okay, I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God. She stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell with a knife. Oh, no. Her knife's sticking out.
Her what?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
Sam suddenly noticed a knife lodged in Ellen's chest. What makes this revelation even more strange is that he didn't seem to have seen it until that moment. It's essential to revisit the call and pay close attention to Sam's reaction when he made this shocking discovery.
Oh, my God. She stabbed herself.
Does this reaction seem really genuine or authentic to you? The way Sam reacted to the discovery of the knife raises serious suspicions. It doesn't appear to be a genuinely shocked response. Instead, it almost sounds like he might have been aware of the knife's presence and was trying to give a staged reaction. His choice of words, suggesting that Ellen had stabbed herself rather than someone else stabbing her, is indeed curious, especially considering the extensive injuries she had. It seems highly unlikely that Ellen, with those severe wounds, would have had the energy to inflict them upon herself multiple times. Another oddity is that Ellen was wearing a sweatshirt, and to perform CPR, Sam would have needed to unzip it. It's perplexing that he didn't notice the large kitchen knife which was sticking out of Ellen's chest until he unzipped her sweatshirt. The fact that the knife was hidden inside the sweatshirt raises questions. Sam's reactions appear forced, and his attempt to convince others that he was genuinely shocked doesn't quite align with the casual tone he adopted during this harrowing situation.
Okay, so I just let her here now? I mean, what do I do?
No, I mean, you can't. If the knife is in her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
Was it her chest or what area?
It's in her chest. It looks like it's right in her heart.
Okay, someone's on the way out there. Okay, just get.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Okay,
how old is she?
She's 27.
27, and there's no sign of life at all.
No, please don't be, Ellie. She's not. Her arm, her hands are still warm. I don't know what that means, but there's blood everywhere. I mean.
I know, but you can't. And the knife is still inside of her. How far? Can you see how far it went in?
It looks pretty deep.
Okay.
It looks it's a long knife.
Don't touch anything, okay?
I'm not touching anything. I can't believe this, though.
So wait, it was just you there with her?
We're the only ones here.
And she ran in the door, you said latched it shut?
No, I went downstairs to work out, and when I came back up, the door was latched.
Oh.
Like, it was, it wasn't like, it was like locked from the inside, and I'm yelling, so I'm
was
yelling.
Your house broken into?
No.
So there's no sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here because I had to break the latch, but to get in.
Okay, 4601 Flat Rock, and this is a house, right?
It's an apartment, Flat Rock, apartment 603.
Okay, that'll help. Apartment 603.
Oh my God. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. People react differently in moments of extreme trauma. But Sam's response was indeed highly peculiar, leaving many questions unanswered. Instead of exhibiting the expected panic or distress, he remained surprisingly calm and conversational, which doesn't align with the usual reactions you'd anticipate in such a distressing situation. It's these unusual reactions that added an extra layer of mystery to the whole ordeal. Following Sam's 911 call, the initial responders who came to the crime scene first were 2 fire department members, and shortly after, a lieutenant and an EMS officer arrived. The lieutenant advised them to wait for the uniformed police to come. However, the EMS officer didn't follow this directive and headed directly to the apartment, while Sam waited in the hallway. Around 6:40 p.m., the EMS officer officially declared Ellen's unfortunate passing. But the twist was before the uniformed police arrived, the EMS officer quickly departed from the scene. However, they did mention to the lieutenant that they should return to the station because they might be interviewed in a homicide case. The puzzling part was that, despite being the first to arrive, pronouncing Ellen's condition, and witnessing the situation, the EMS officer was never actually interviewed by law enforcement. This omission in the investigation was a significant oversight, as their perspective could have shed light on key details and potentially offered a deeper understanding of the situation surrounding Ellen's tragic death. So, when the uniformed police entered the apartment, they discovered a haunting scene. Ellen's lifeless body was seated on the kitchen floor, with her head and a portion of her upper body and shoulders leaning against the lower half of the kitchen cabinets. A long kitchen knife was embedded in the left side of her chest through her clothing, and several other kitchen knives were found in the sink, and a knife block had toppled over on the counter nearby. Interestingly, throughout the entire apartment, there were no signs of a struggle, and everything remained neatly in its place, as if undisturbed. The investigation took a significant turn when an investigator from the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office arrived to examine Ellen's body and delved into the perplexing circumstances responsible for her demise. As he examined Ellen's lifeless form, he made some important observations. Near her body lay a pair of glasses, a hair scrunchie adorned her wrist, and her left hand clutched a pristine white towel that remained entirely unstained by blood. His examination of the body revealed a shocking revelation. There were a total of 20 stab wounds on Ellen's body, and the chest wound with the knife was just one of these 20. These horrific injuries were found across her head, neck, back, and torso. It was a chilling discovery, as it seemed highly improbable for someone to have 20 self-inflicted stab wounds. According to the mystery, there were 11 bruises on Ellen's body in various stages of healing, spanning her right arm, right leg, and abdomen. With these puzzling details in mind, the police embarked on an intense investigation of the crime scene, attempting to unravel the events that could have occurred in those 45 minutes when Ellen's fiancé was downstairs working out. The initial theories the police explored led to more questions than answers. They first considered the possibility of an intruder breaking into the apartment and harming Ellen. However, upon close examination, it became evident that there were no signs of forced entry into their apartment. Also, their unit was in a 6-story complex building and could be accessed either through the front door or the exterior balcony. But a significant clue lay in the snow outside because it had been a snowy day and there was a thick layer of fresh snow on the ground outside. Surprisingly, there were no footprints on the snow, and the snow's pristine condition indicated that no one had entered from the exterior balcony. Moreover, there was also no evidence of a robbery found, as valuables like Ellen's jewelry and laptops were still present in the apartment. Even a thorough search of the house turned up no death note or any indication that Ellen might have taken her own life. The investigators left no stone unturned, and they interviewed all the building staff, neighbors, and anyone who might have seen or heard anything unusual. Yet no one had noticed anything out of the ordinary, and there were no reports of strangers entering the apartment. What's even more puzzling was that, upon examination, no DNA other than Ellen's was found in the house. However, the theory of homicide gained more strength due to the gruesome details of the wounds on Ellen's body. Ellen had suffered a staggering 20 stab wounds, 8 in the chest, 1 in her stomach, 1 on the top of her head that went through skull and scalp, and a shocking 10 at the back of her head. It was nearly impossible for someone to remain conscious for such an extended period and have the strength to inflict 20 stab wounds to themselves, which was only deepening the mystery surrounding her death. So now, with the investigation shifting towards the possibility of homicide, the first suspicion naturally fell upon Ellen's fiancé, Sam. He'd been the last person to see Ellen alive and also had easy access to their apartment. Sam was even led out of the building in handcuffs and brought to the district headquarters for questioning. However, it's worth noting that throughout that night and during the subsequent investigation, Sam cooperated fully with the police. He didn't assert any privileges and never refused to speak with the authorities. So after a relatively brief interrogation, Sam was eventually released and cleared of any suspicions. But what raised eyebrows was the veil of secrecy around the investigation. The experts and private detectives who were brought in to assist were denied access to vital police reports, including details of Sam's interview. Sam's initial handcuffing made it clear that the police had their suspicions, but what transpired in that interview room remained a well-guarded secret. As time went on, it became evident that the investigation into Ellen's case was taking an unexpected twist. Initially assumed to be a homicide scene, the handling of the case didn't align with what you'd typically expect in a murder investigation. On January 27, 2011, Melissa Ware, the building manager of Venice Lofts Apartments, made an intriguing call to the police. She relayed that Sam's uncle, James Schwartzman, had reached out with an unusual request. James wanted to gain access to the apartment to retrieve personal belongings of Sam for use at Ellen's funeral, which was scheduled for the following day, January 28, 2011, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So Melissa reached out to the police department to inquire whether it was permissible to allow someone into the apartment. Given that it was still considered a crime scene, and less than 24 hours had passed since Ellen's tragic death, one might expect restrictions. However, to her shock, she was told that there was no specific restrictions about entering the apartment. Melissa pressed further, expressing concerns about the lingering bloodstains that were still present in the apartment. However, the police response was surprising. They stated that they bore no responsibility for cleanup. Instead, they directed her to contact a third party, a crime scene cleanup company, and even provided her with their contact information. So, without delay, Melissa got in touch with the cleanup company to make arrangements for them to address the situation in Ellen's apartment. The mystery surrounding the case took yet another unexpected turn. After the cleanup was completed, Melissa contacted Uncle James and informed him that he could come to the apartment to retrieve what he needed. So, when Uncle James arrived, he selected one of Sam's suits for the funeral, which was expected. However, the surprise came when he decided to take Ellen's laptop and phone along with him. This raised suspicion, as it was unconventional for personal items of the victim to be removed, especially considering they might contain potential evidence. The situation had become increasingly mysterious, and it seemed like law enforcement wasn't taking significant steps to investigate or address the puzzling elements at play. Now, the same day, on January 27, 2011, Ellen's autopsy was performed, and it unveiled a harrowing picture that Ellen had suffered 8 separate chest stab wounds, with varying depths ranging from 0.2 centimeters to a staggering 10 centimeters. Her abdomen bore a 6 centimeter deep puncture and a 6.5 centimeter long gash marred her scalp. To make matters worse, her neck showed signs of extreme violence, with 10 individual stab wounds. These neck wounds ranged in depth from 0.2 centimeters to a staggering 7 centimeters, with one of them even penetrating nerves and the brain. Do you really think that a person can make such deep wounds on her body all by herself? Now, medically, these injuries alone would have caused severe pain, cranial nerve dysfunction, and traumatic brain signs and symptoms, including numbness, tingling, and loss of consciousness. Adding to the puzzle, Dr. Marlon Osborne also noted numerous unexplained bruises on Ellen's upper and lower extremities, all in different stages of healing. This raised concerns because it suggested a pattern of recurring injury over several weeks or months, in which either Ellen was bruising herself or someone else was bruising her regularly, casting a dark shadow over the case. In cases like Ellen's, where multiple stabbings occur on the back of her neck, it's typical to bring in a neuropathologist to determine if the spinal cord remained intact or not. This distinction is crucial, as it could answer the question of whether Ellen could have physically carried on with the act. If her spinal cord was damaged or severed, it would render her physically incapacitated yet aware of her surroundings, and this scenario strongly points towards a homicide. Now, the details became even more perplexing when considering that if Ellen's spinal cord remained intact, she theoretically could have moved physically. However, the implausible part was that she would have had to give herself 10 stab wounds on the back of the neck, each in different directions. This scenario seemed incredibly unlikely. Despite all the circumstantial evidence pointing towards homicide, Dr. Lucy Adams' report controversially asserted that Ellen's spinal cord was intact, leaving the possibility that she might have been able to self-inflict these wounds. Things took a dramatic turn when Dr. Osborne, the original medical examiner, got wind of these unusual findings. He couldn't shake off the oddities in the case and decided to take a closer look. Upon re-examination, he made a startling discovery. So this time, in the initial autopsy report of Ellen dated January 27, 2011, the medical examiner unequivocally stated that Ellen's cause of death was homicide, confirming that she had indeed been killed. Now, the case of Ellen had turned into a criminal investigation, but the police faced a major problem. They had essentially abandoned the crime scene, and the entire apartment had been thoroughly cleaned with their permission, even before the autopsy reports were available. This left them with very little to investigate, but to prepare the essential affidavits and documents on January 28, 2011, they went back to the apartment, hoping for some clues. But there wasn't a single drop of blood left in the apartment. So now, in an effort to make it seem like they were really reinvestigating the case, the police started delving into Ellen's background, hoping to find some crucial information that could help them cover up their earlier mistakes. It didn't take them long to discover that Ellen had been dealing with anxiety and had been seeing Dr. Berman for counseling. Soon they reached out to Dr. Berman, who explained that Ellen had been struggling with severe anxiety for about 2 months. She believed that work-related pressures had overwhelmed Ellen, contributing to her anxiety. Ellen also confided in Dr. Berman about the challenges at her workplace. She mentioned that the changes in school district regulations and difficulties with a few students were actually causing her anxiety. It's important to note that while Ellen was experiencing work-related stress and anxiety, it was at a relatively normal level. She never expressed any intention of taking her own life, and her struggles didn't suggest a scenario where she'd harm herself with multiple stab wounds. Dr. Berman's insight into Ellen's life showed that she had a positive view of her relationship with Sam and was eagerly looking forward to their marriage. Despite her anxiety, Ellen didn't express any negativity about her relationship, and she always had a smile on her face when discussing it. To address her anxiety, Dr. Berman initially prescribed Zoloft to Ellen and later switched to a low dose of Xanax. When these medications didn't yield the desired results, Ellen was prescribed Ambien and Klonopin to aid her in sleeping.
The psychiatrist's notes say not suicidal.
These medications were intended to help her cope with her anxiety, not to suggest that she was on the verge of hurting herself. But what was shocking was that the law enforcement focused on Ellen's anxiety as a key factor to support their theory that she could have harmed herself in such a violent way on that tragic evening. They believed her anxiety escalated to an extreme level, leading her to take a knife and inflict these severe wounds on herself. However, many questions still remain unanswered about this conclusion. The twists in Ellen's case didn't stop there. On February 3, 2011, the Philadelphia police reversed Dr. Osborne's initial ruling of homicide and stated that Ellen's death was not officially ruled a homicide, but was still considered suspicious. Then, on February 18, 2011, they made an even more surprising declaration, officially stating that Ellen Greenberg had taken her own life. Dr. Osborne's report was also changed, no longer classifying her death as a homicide. This shift left many people scratching their heads and wondering what really happened to Ellen. The announcement left Ellen's parents in utter shock, as it seemed impossible to them that their happy and content daughter would take her own life. It raised so many baffling questions. Why would she do it? Why would she prepare a fruit salad with happiness one moment and then start stabbing herself? What transpired during those mysterious 45 minutes? These questions haunted Ellen's parents for years, and they remained in mourning, still unaware of the truth behind their beloved daughter's tragic death. After months of reflection and navigating the difficult journey of grief, Ellen's parents resolved to seek justice for their daughter. Faced with the denial of access to crucial information, they took matters into their own hands.
The way the law is written, I believe, in Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth, if, number one, there has to be a crime for the police to hold back the records. Suicide is not a crime.
They purchased Ellen's autopsy reports, which isn't the usual procedure but was necessary due to their difficulties in obtaining them through regular means. Additionally, they acquired autopsy and crime scene photos, and in 2012, they shared these materials with renowned forensic pathologist Cyril Wecht for a fresh perspective. His examination yielded some intriguing findings. Dr. Wecht pointed out that multiple self-inflicted stab wounds are exceedingly rare. Methods for harming oneself have evolved over time, with options like drugs, hanging, or gunshot being more common. Cutting the throat or lower arms is usually linked to taking one's own life, but stab wounds to the back are unusual for such cases. In cases of murder, the assailant typically inflicts multiple stab wounds to various parts like the side, back, and stomach. In contrast, cases where people take their own lives usually involve additional cuts on the lower arms or tentative stabbings to test the pain or gather courage. Here's the key. Self-inflicted stab wounds are usually singular, often to the chest. However, multiple stab wounds on Ellen's back, upper neck, and lower head were an anomaly. Not only were there many of them, but they also had different directions, some going from left to right, others running vertically, and even some horizontally. This cast serious doubt on the idea of her taking her own life. So Dr. Cyril Wecht's conclusion spoke loudly. He stated, "Based upon a reasonable degree of medical certainty, it's my professional opinion that the manner of death of Ellen was strongly suspicious of homicide." However, Ellen's parents wanted another expert's perspective, so they reached out to another forensic pathologist specialist, Dr. Wayne K. Ross, who meticulously reviewed all the essential details surrounding Ellen's case. Dr. Wayne didn't just confirm that Ellen's death was a homicide, he also made a shocking discovery. While examining the crime scene photos and autopsy report, he found compelling evidence of strangulation. He described a mark on the front of Ellen's neck consistent with a fingernail mark, and multiple bruises under the neck and on the neck's right side. These patterns were in line with manual strangulation, which was a disturbing revelation, as Ellen definitely wasn't capable of doing that herself. But there was more. Dr. Wayne also noted something peculiar about the spinal cord, so he decided to take a closer look at it and re-examine it, which was stored at the medical examiner's office. After carefully examining Ellen's spinal cord, Dr. Wayne found that her spinal cord had indeed been penetrated and damaged, making it highly unlikely that she could have inflicted additional stab wounds to herself. Furthermore, Ellen had a significant wound at the base of her skull, which extended deep into her brain. This specific injury resulted from an upward strike to the base of her skull, and it would have been extremely difficult, if not impossible, for Ellen to have inflicted such a wound on herself. Dr. Wayne's investigation didn't stop there. He also presented compelling evidence that more than one knife had been used to stab Ellen. One of the knives had a serrated blade, similar to the one found in her body, while the other had a smooth blade. This was further supported by the autopsy findings, which revealed that some of her wounds had serrated edges, while others were smoother. If multiple knives were involved, it became increasingly implausible that Ellen could have taken her own life by stabbing herself with one knife, then miraculously switching to a different knife, cleaning it of blood, and stabbing herself again. After years of ongoing discussions and doubts surrounding Ellen's case, a significant turning point occurred in October 2019. Ellen's parents took legal action by filing a civil suit against the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office and the pathologist Marlon Osborne, who had conducted Ellen's autopsy in 2011. Their primary objective was to challenge the initial determination of Ellen taking her own life and advocate for a change to classify Ellen's case as a potential homicide or undetermined. This was a pivotal step because if her death remained labeled as her taking her own life, it might lead to the case being closed without further investigation. For this, the court brought in a specialized pathologist to re-examine all the details of Ellen's case, including the autopsy reports. This expert was tasked with determining the real circumstances surrounding Ellen's death, which was crucial in uncovering the actual cause. To support this thorough investigation, they enlisted the assistance of Detective Scott Eelman, an expert in crime scene reconstruction, evidence processing, and management. Detective Eelman carefully examined the photographs taken at the scene, and he noticed something rather intriguing. The images revealed an interesting detail: a stream of blood running horizontally across Ellen's cheek, starting from the side of her nose and heading towards her left ear. What made this observation significant was that Ellen's body was discovered in an upright, slumped forward position. According to the initial police account, Ellen had supposedly stabbed herself while standing and then slid to the floor. However, this peculiar blood flow pattern didn't quite align with that scenario. After this, Eelman made a rather compelling point, stating, "The blood flow path defies gravity. You don't need to be a pathologist to appreciate that. Either she moved herself or someone moved her." He didn't stop there. Eelman honed in on this issue of blood flow in his report. The crime scene photos depicted Ellen's position in the kitchen. She was found slumped in the corner with her back against the kitchen cabinet. Her feet and arms were stretched out, her head slightly tilted forward and to the right, and her chin resting against her right shoulder and her right temple against the corner cabinet. This positioning raised questions about the story told by the initial investigation. Eelman's report made it abundantly clear that the bloodstains on Ellen's face didn't match the position in which she was discovered. There was a peculiar blood flow pattern, diagonally across her forehead from right to left, ending at her right eyebrow. This pattern defied gravity and suggested that her head had been tilted in various directions, slightly backward and to the left. It strongly indicated that Ellen's body had been moved multiple times after she was stabbed. This revelation cast doubt on the idea that Ellen could have moved so much on her own. There are some critical details to consider here. First, Sam mentioned during the 911 call that he found Ellen's body lying on the floor with her back down. But when the police arrived, her position had inexplicably changed, and she was seated, leaning against the kitchen cabinet. Furthermore, a neuropathologist, Dr. Lindsay Emery, provided vital information that left little doubt about the true nature of Ellen's death. She stated that there was no evidence of hemorrhaging in the spinal cord, which strongly indicated that Ellen was not in control of her own death, but in fact was killed.
Have you ever been deposed before?
Yes.
Now,
This neuropathologist's best determination, Ellen wasn't alive when she was stabbed.
What's significant here is that there's no hemorrhage.
And in your experience, no hemorrhage can equate to the person having been deceased at the time of the administration of the trauma.
Yeah, I mean, in general, no hemorrhage means no pulse.
People without pulses do not stab themselves repeatedly. So that by itself establishes suicide is absolutely impossible in this case.
Corroborates what we've always thought. This was not a suicide. This was a vicious homicide.
It was increasingly evident that Ellen did not stab herself and that someone else was present in the apartment with her. This mysterious intruder likely attacked her from behind while she was making her fruit salad. He initiated the assault by strangling her and then proceeded to stab her 20 times, possibly to mislead investigators into considering she took her own life instead of murder. However, all the evidence and expert reports are now pointing firmly towards homicide as the true case of Ellen's tragic death. In the last piece of evidence in 2021, Ellen's parents brought forth a 3D anatomical recreation of Ellen's wounds created by BioMX Consulting in Norfolk, Virginia. This remarkable recreation provides a detailed representation of the size, depth, and angle of each of the wounds on Ellen's body. They used a technology called photogrammetry to recreate Ellen's anatomical and physiological features. This detailed recreation vividly shows how it would have been impossible for Ellen to stab herself multiple times in the back of her neck. All the evidence and expert reports strongly suggest that Ellen's death was a homicide, and it calls for a thorough investigation to uncover what truly happened on that fateful evening of January 26, 2011. But in a surprising turn of events, the Attorney General's office decided to close the case in February 2022, insisting that her taking her own life somehow made sense, despite the overwhelming evidence pointing in the direction of homicide. No doubt this decision brought a lot of shock, not only to Ellen's parents, but also to the whole community and the pathologists who, with determination, examined all of Ellen's reports. Now, the hope for justice lies in the hands of Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania's Attorney General, who's also running for the state's governor. He has the power to unlock the door that may lead to justice for Ellen and her grieving family. The entire community, along with Ellen's family, is eagerly awaiting for this case to be reopened. A thorough investigation is expected to unveil shocking truths and reveal what really transpired on that tragic evening. Rest assured, we'll be keeping a close watch on this case, and any new developments regarding Ellen's death will be shared with you as they unfold. Now, before we wrap up, let's dive into some interesting aspects of Ellen's case. One of the initial mysteries is the apartment's internal door latch. The apartment was not just locked from the inside, but the security lock was also firmly in place. This detail is quite crucial because it's the sole entry point into the apartment. To make it even more mysterious, there were no footprints or signs in the snowy balcony area outside, indicating that no one had entered from there. Sam claimed that he forcefully entered the apartment by breaking through the door, all while the lock was securely engaged. Now, if that had really happened, you'd expect to see some damage, right? Perhaps the screws on the lock coming loose, or some signs of force on the door. But in a surprising twist, the lock remained completely intact, showing no damage or disturbance. It's almost like the lock had a magic shield to protect it. To understand this peculiar situation better, let's watch a visual representation that might shed some light on how Sam would have broken the door and why the lock should have shown signs of it.
I just didn't want to ruin our door and door frame, so I'm going to go ahead and try to break in, and Jackson, let's see what happens when we do that.
All right, you're good.
Okay, you good? Mm-hmm. All right, so according to his statement, I guess he could open up this, right? It was this that was locking him out. So he would have been able to get the door open this far. So I'm going to try to put my shoulder into this and see what happens, and then see if my hypothesis is correct. I've never done this. I hope it doesn't hurt. Here we go. Ready?
Exactly. As we've just seen, the lock remained unscathed, while the door was claimed to be forcefully broken, suggests something peculiar. If the door was truly broken from the outside with such force, the lock should have borne the brunt of it and shown signs of damage. However, it appeared more like the lock was pulled away slightly from the door. It's as if someone from inside the apartment used a tool, like a screwdriver, to manipulate the lock. You'd think such force would have caused the door frame to come off the wall, but in Ellen's case, it remained strangely intact. So now let's talk about the most important part of the question that baffles everyone. How could Ellen have inflicted those 20 stab wounds on herself? Among them, the 10 on the back of her neck have been the focal point of contention. It's a puzzle that even expert pathologists have scrutinized, and their findings indicate it was highly improbable for her to accomplish. To unravel this, let's turn to a visual representation that will shed light on why this seems nearly impossible for Ellen to have done on her own.
So, go ahead and grab that. But it can't be up like that, it has to be like that.
Okay.
But you're holding the blade, so...
It needs to be back.
Yeah. Okay, and...
it has to be up
that's
here.
No, it's upward facing. So... Okay, so now you know kind of where it is.
Okay.
You think you can stab yourself like that?
Okay, can you tell my voice? This is a huge effort.
You're really... how much pressure can you put on yourself?
From that angle?
Yeah.
Well, and okay.
Yeah, you can stop.
When you look at the angles of those stab wounds on Ellen, it becomes clear that these were extremely awkward positions for someone to self-inflict them. Common sense tells us that if someone wanted to harm themselves, they'd likely choose a position that feels more natural. In the visual representation, you can see that if Ellen was truly stabbing herself, the knife's angle would be top down, but the actual wounds tell a different story. They appear more like direct stabs that someone standing behind her might have inflicted.
None of them come at a downward angle, right? They're all coming in straight from the back. And straight, like with a stabbing motion, I can come in straight. My belief is that it started over here and went boom, 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 boom. And he wasn't moving. She was turning this direction. He keeps doing this and then is at, da, 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 da.
The pieces of this puzzling case do seem to come together when we consider the possibility that there is a hidden assailant inside the apartment on that fateful evening. Ellen, making a fruit salad, was caught off guard and subjected to a shocking attack that ultimately took her life. The scenario of an intruder inside the apartment fits the evidence better than the theory of Ellen being the one to take her own life. Also, the fact that Ellen's body was moved multiple times suggests a deliberate attempt to manipulate the scene, making it appear as if she took her own life. This raises a perplexing question. How did Sam initially find her on the floor, while the police later discovered her in a sitting position against the kitchen cabinet? The details of this case certainly leave room for doubt and further investigation. We can only hope that, in time, the truth about Ellen's tragic death will come to light and the responsible party will be brought to justice, allowing her soul to rest in peace. What are your thoughts on this case? What evidence strongly supports the argument that Ellen's death was a homicide rather than self-inflicted? How did the initial police investigation fail to consider the discrepancies in the crime scene and autopsy findings, leading to the case being labeled as self-inflicted rather than a possible murder? We'd love to hear from you. If there's a case you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to drop your recommendations in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled for the next mystery to unfold.